We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know what part of the world you are watching from right now. Let us know in the comments. Now let's dive into today's story, Chapter 1. The room was silent, save for the low hum of the ceiling fan and the soft creak of the floor as Jack Renshaw dropped his duffel bag by the door. 12 hours early. After 20 years of covert operations and last-minute evacuations, Jack still believed in one thing: trust. He trusted Melissa. Until now. The buzz came again. A phone, not hers. Black, screen cracked, tucked beneath the edge of her makeup drawer. He frowned. Melissa was in the shower, humming some soft R&B track. Steam curled from under the bathroom door. He picked up the phone. "Can't wait to taste you again, baby. Last night was crazy." Another buzz. A photo. Blurred, but unmistakable, Melissa. Wearing nothing but Jack's army t-shirt. But she wasn't alone. Jack's throat closed. He didn't feel rage. Not yet. His training kicked in. Breathe. Control. Observe first, react later. He swiped the phone open using the smudge pattern and found a thread going back months. Code names. Dates. Hotel receipts. Bank transfers. Even a conversation. Once the paperwork's in and he's gone, we're set. Don't screw this up. Gone? The bathroom door creaked. Jack tucked the phone back in place, slow and calm, and stepped back just as Melissa walked out in a towel, smiling like nothing was wrong. "Hey, babe," she said. "You're home early?" He forced a smile. Flight was quicker than expected. She kissed his cheek, oblivious. Or pretending. His hands itched. Not to hit. To plan. Because now he knew. It wasn't just an affair. It was a setup. A target had been painted on his back. But who the hell was Cole? Before we move ahead, I just want to say, your support truly means everything. We're building something special here, and our next big goal is reaching 10,000 incredible subscribers. If you're feeling the emotions in these stories, imagine what's still to come. Subscribe now, be part of this amazing journey, and let's keep growing together. Your one click can make a real difference. Let's continue the story. That night, Jack didn't sleep. He lay still in their bed, listening to Melissa breathe beside him, each inhale sounding faker than the last. Her hand rested gently on his chest like it always had, like she hadn't plotted his death. At 3:17 a.m., he slid out of bed without a sound. Downstairs, in the garage, Jack opened his old gear trunk. Hidden under false panels, bugging devices, pinhole cams, SIM cloners, encrypted drives. Tools from a life he thought he'd left behind. He planted the first mic under the kitchen table, then in her car, then inside the thermostat. By sunrise, every inch of Melissa's life was under surveillance. The next day, he watched her through his phone while sipping coffee on the porch. She called someone. "It's still on track," she whispered. "He's back, but he suspects nothing. 2 weeks tops. Then, we're clear." Clear of what? Him? He sent a signal to Vega, an old contact buried deep in the shadows of Langley. They hadn't spoken in years, but the code still worked. Need eyes. Need confirmation. Private target. CM priority red. Later, Melissa came into the living room, stretching, yawning. "Jack," she said sweetly, "you okay? You're quiet." "Just jet lag," he lied. He smiled again. It felt alien. She nestled beside him, like nothing was wrong, like their life hadn't turned into a war zone overnight. Jack studied her face. If he didn't know, he might have kissed her, believed her. But now he saw the cracks, the false warmth, the routine deception. She didn't know he knew, and he'd use that. Every day she walked through this house now, she'd be stepping into a trap. Jack sat in the dark, headphones on, watching the live feed from every camera he'd hidden. Melissa laughed into her phone as she curled her hair. "I swear, he has no clue." Cole's voice came through cocky, low. "We moved the timeline. I don't like how unpredictable he is." "He's just tired," she said, voice syrupy. "Wants peace." He's soft now. Jack's jaw tightened. Soft? He clicked over to the GPS tracker he'd planted in her car. Last night, she'd been 3 blocks from the Flamingo Hotel, cheap, cash only, the kind of place that didn't ask questions. He remembered that place from a mission years ago. Jack ran every license plate he could pull from the security cam Vega pinged back. One matched, Cole Merritt, owner of a boutique tech company in D.C., but his digital footprint was a joke, too clean. Jack spoke aloud, voice gravel. Ghost. Melissa left that afternoon. Said she was getting her nails done. He followed from 5 cars back, muscle memory guiding him like old times. She didn't spot him. She wasn't looking. At the corner of Grand and Easton, she made a call. He's off my scent, she said, smiling. I think we're in the clear. Jack parked and waited. Watched her walk into Cole's car's silver Lexus, windows tinted. They kissed like teenagers. He filmed it. Every second. But this wasn't just about catching her. He needed the why. And if they thought he was just some retired husband too broken to fight, they forgot what made Jack Renshaw who he is. What happens when the ghost of war comes home to a quiet suburb? He's not just watching. He's hunting. Jack waited in the corner booth of a dead diner off Route 22, sipping burnt coffee. He hadn't seen Vega in 9 years. She'd been the CIA's ghost hacker, encrypted everything untraceable until she disappeared. No retirement party. Just vanished. At 2:06 p.m., the bell above the door jingled. In walked Vega, purple beanie, combat boots, mismatched hoodie, and eyes like razors. You look like sh*T, she said, sliding into the booth. Good to see you too. He passed her the burner phone he'd cloned from Melissa. Need everything. Fast. She plugged it into a cracked laptop. Oof. This chick's dirty. Go deeper. 10 minutes in, Vega frowned. You know this guy she's talking to? Cole Merritt. He's not who he says he is. Her fingers flew across the keys. He's listed as a CTO of some shell company, but everything before 2013 is scrubbed. Nothing. No address. No family. Just shows up. Langley scrub. Jack asked. Vega shook her head. No. Private sector. Darker than that. She turned the screen. A blurry image, Cole in fatigues, standing over bodies in a burned-out village. The metadata timestamped it from a conflict Jack knew, Afghanistan, 2011. You crossed this guy? Vega asked. Not directly, but I dismantled a group back then. PMC outfits who went rogue. Vega's tone dropped. He's Black Halo. Jack's heart slowed. Black Halo didn't just break rules, they erased people. And now one of them was sleeping with his wife. She's not just cheating, Vega said. She's playing house with a war criminal. Jack leaned back, blood boiling under skin gone ice cold. She picked the wrong man to double-cross, he muttered. Vega nodded. So, you want revenge or a war? Jack didn't blink. Both. Melissa smiled across the dinner table like they were still in love. Wine? She asked sweetly, holding up the bottle. Jack nodded. Sure. He watched her pour. No hesitation. No tremble. Not even guilt. She sat, tucked her hair behind her ear. It's nice to have you home. Jack raised his glass. Feels good to be back. Inside, he was calculating. 2 cameras in the living room, one under the wine rack, one in the vent above. Melissa dug into the chicken. Casual. Relaxed. So how's retirement treating you? She asked. Strange, Jack replied. Too quiet. She laughed. That's because you haven't let yourself enjoy it yet. I'm trying. You'll get there. Jack studied her as she chewed. Her wedding ring glinted under the lights, the same ring she wore the night they said forever. He cleared his throat. Saw something strange today. Your car was at Grand and Easton. Thought you said you had a spa appointment. Melissa froze, just for a second. Then smiled. Dieter. Nail place was full. You know how traffic is. Jack sipped his wine. Melissa leaned forward, voice softer. Jack, are we okay? He paused, looked her dead in the eyes. You tell me. A flicker in her gaze. She reached out, touched his hand. Of course we are. Jack stood, walked around the table, kissed her on the head, then whispered, I'd die for you, you know. She smiled again, but her hand trembled as she picked up her glass. Later that night, Jack downloaded audio from the dinner. He looped her heartbeat, the jump after his line, the fear. He smirked. She knows. Or she suspects. But she's not sure. That was his edge. And now it was time to take the next step. Vega's call came at 3:41 a.m. Wake up. We've got a problem. Jack grabbed the burner and answered. Go. I traced one of Cole's crypto wallets to a dark market contract exchange. The file was encrypted. Took me 3 hours. What did it say? She hesitated. Your name. Date of death listed next week. Jack sat up. They hired someone? Not someone, she said. Nico the cleaner. Jack stood, heart thudding. He's real. Vega's voice sharpened. Yeah. And expensive. Which means they're serious. Jack stared out the window. Melissa's car was still in the driveway. She was asleep upstairs, or pretending. Vegas sent the document. Jack opened it. Subject. Jack Renshaw payment. 5 BTC received. Execution method. Drugging plus staged overdose. His hands tightened into fists. He thought the betrayal had limits. He was wrong. Melissa wasn't just leaving him. She was erasing him. By morning, he was back in control. He called Vega. I need surveillance on Nico. I'll handle Melissa. You gonna kill her? No, Jack said coldly. I want her to feel it. Every second. That day, he picked up flowers. Came home smiling. Melissa was in the garden. What's this? She asked. For you, he said. Figured I'd make up for being distant lately. She blushed, surprised. You're being sweet. He kissed her forehead. Later that night, he found the pills in the wine cabinet. Tucked inside an old Tylenol bottle, barbiturates, sealed tight. He replaced them with laxatives. Then cleaned his fingerprints off the bottle. He'd let her try. He'd let her fail. And he'd be right there smiling. Because now he wasn't just hunting. He was playing dead. The morning sun filtered through the blinds, painting soft stripes across Jack's bare arms as he packed the go bag he hadn't touched since Kabul. ASG sour, 2 burner phones, encrypted drive, gloves, zip ties. His hands moved with practiced calm, but his chest burned with something deeper, betrayal, sharpened into purpose. Melissa was in the kitchen humming. Pancakes. Maple syrup. Sunday normal. Going out? She asked as he came down in jeans and a faded hoodie. Hardware store. Need some screws for the cabinet hinge. Want me to come? He smiled. Nah. You'd be bored. She shrugged, flipping a pancake. Jack left. 10 minutes later, he pulled into a dusty lot behind the Flamingo Hotel. Not to spy. To plant. He slipped through the service entrance, past a sleepy janitor. Room 317, Melissa's recent rendezvous point. He picked the lock in 6 seconds flat. Inside, the air was stale, sheets rumpled. A perfume scent still lingered. He installed a microcam behind the smoke detector, then another beneath the nightstand. Jack stood in the room for a long moment, just breathing. He wasn't angry. He was calculating. Back in the car, he dialed Vega. You were right about Cole. The name's a ghost. I found 3 IDs connected to that face, all with different birthplaces. Vega's voice came through, low and urgent. He worked under Garza and Basra. Remember that operation? Jack did. Garza's unit was infamous. Hit squads dressed like allies. Quiet massacres. That's who your wife is in bed with, Vega said. You think this is just about you? Jack tightened his grip on the steering wheel. No, he said. It's bigger. Melissa wasn't just betraying her husband. She was sleeping beside a man whose existence could collapse governments if exposed. Jack didn't just want revenge anymore. He wanted justice. And he was going to bring the house down. Monday morning. Melissa said she had a meeting with a new client. Jack kissed her cheek and handed her coffee laced with a light sedative, just enough to make her drowsy and delay her return by an hour. She smiled, took the mug, and drove off without a clue. Jack used her absence. He had traced an obscure GPS ping from her phone to a First Community Bank downtown. Most people wouldn't catch it, just a 5-minute blip. But Jack did. He walked into the bank in a collared shirt, aviators on, casual. Hi there, he said to the teller. My wife left something in our safe deposit box. Just need to confirm the box number. She looked nervous. Do you have her key or ID? He smiled warmly. Slid over a forged document, Melissa's signature copied from dozens of checks. Of course. After a pause, the manager took him to box 409. Inside, a slim blue folder, sealed with an elastic band. He opened it in the car. Inside, forged medical files, psychiatric evaluations, and a DNR do not resuscitate order. Signed in his name. There was more. Divorce paperwork, predated, claiming abandonment and mental instability. And a new will, entirely handwritten. His signature was perfect. Only, he never wrote it. I leave all my assets, properties, and insurance benefits to my wife, Melissa Renshaw. Jack stared at the page, jaw clenched. She was going to kill him, legally. Frame it as mental decline. Claim he took his life. Walk away rich and clean. He laughed once, not out of humor. Out of awe. She wasn't just cheating. She was executing a blueprint. Back home, she greeted him with a lazy yawn. You been out long? He kissed her forehead. Nope. Just running errands. He tucked the folder into his coat pocket. Melissa was building a future without him. And now, he was building her ending. Jack sat at the edge of his bed that night, the house quiet. Melissa had fallen asleep early, thanks to the sedative. He watched her chest rise and fall, peaceful, as if she hadn't plotted to bury him. In his office, Jack set up a camera. Lit only by the desk lamp, he hit record. His eyes, tired but steady, stared into the lens. If you're watching this, it means something went wrong. He paused. Exhaled. My name is Jack Renshaw. I'm a former CIA field operative, code clearance Delta Red. What I'm about to tell you is not a theory. It's not paranoia. He lifted the blue folder into frame. Tapped the forge will. My wife and her partner, Cole Merritt, an alias, have orchestrated a plot to eliminate me. This file contains every step of that plan. He turned to the camera again. I've spent my life dismantling terror networks, hunting warlords. And now, I'm being hunted in my own home. Not by an enemy combatant, but by my wife. His jaw tightened. I don't want vengeance. Not really. I want the truth to outlive me. He stood, walked the camera to his safe in the floorboards, opened it, and placed the drive inside. Melissa, if you see this, know this. I loved you. Even now, there's a part of me that wants to believe this is all a mistake. He looked into the lens one last time. But I'm not naive anymore. And you forgot one thing. He leaned closer. You didn't marry a man. You married a weapon. Click. The video stopped. He closed the safe. The house creaked as he climbed back into bed. Melissa stirred, smiling faintly in her sleep. Jack closed his eyes beside her. He wasn't just planning revenge. He was preparing for war. Jack didn't just want to watch anymore. He wanted them to move. He wanted them to believe they were winning. So he gave them bait. Using a spoof text message app tied to Melissa's burner, Jack sent a single message to Cole. He's acting off. I think he knows something. Need to move the plan forward. He waited. 14 minutes later, Cole replied. Hotel tomorrow. 9 p.m. final talk. No screw-ups. Jack smiled, leaning back in his chair as Vega patched into the burner's IP pings. Got him, she muttered through the call. He's using an encrypted network out of McLean. Looks like he's still in D.C. Hotel location? Working on it. Jack clicked through surveillance footage of Melissa's day. She visited a boutique. Smiled at the cashier. Bought lingerie. Then lunch with a friend. Or so it seemed. Except that friend was flagged in Vega's system as a former payroll officer at Black Halo, under an alias. They're tying loose ends, Vegas said. But they don't know you've already unraveled the whole rope. Jack's voice stayed cold. Let them finish the knot. The next night, he followed Melissa from a distance. Her perfume hit the air even outside the elevator. She was dressed to seduce, heels clicking like a countdown. Room 417. Flamingo Hotel. He watched the door close behind her, then walked to the front desk with a badge forged from a defunct Homeland office. Security sweep, he said. Threat level yellow. We've had intel on this building. The clerk nodded fast. You need access? Jack flashed a smile. Every camera feed you've got. 10 minutes later, Jack sat in a side office watching Melissa embrace Cole. Their kiss lingered. Her laugh was real. But then, She handed him a vial. He nodded, tucked it into his jacket. Vega's voice came through Jack's earpiece. Jack, that's not a love affair. Jack's eyes narrowed. No, he whispered. That's a kill order going active. The next morning, Jack was already halfway up the Potomac by the time the sun broke through the mist. He met Vega in a warehouse used once for CIA asset drops. Now, it was her personal digital fortress, laptops humming, wires tangled like veins across the floor, and one wall covered with monitors flashing streams of code. She handed him a USB drive. This is everything we pulled from Cole's secure cloud. Took me all night to break through. Jack plugged it in. Files popped up. Not just personal logs, but contracts. Missions. Names. Cole had been running Black Halo contracts off the books for years. Rogue assassinations. Extraction deals. Quiet money for loud deaths. And the dates? Some lined up with Jack's own missions, the ones that had gone bad. Cole was shadowing your teams, Vegas said. Tracking you. Selling intel about ops before they even launched. Jack stared at a file labeled RH09-75. Terminate if compromised his own initials. A file on him. He was in the system before I retired, Jack muttered. Vega nodded. Melissa might have been planted. That's not confirmed, but the timing fits. She came into your life just after that Dubai op. Jack leaned on the table, every muscle tight. She was the last chess piece, he said. They used my own wife to break me from the inside. He looked up at the screen again. One file showed Cole's upcoming plans, new aliases, escape routes, and coded payment orders. Jack copied it all. I'm going to make sure every client of his knows he's compromised, he said. They'll burn him from both ends. Vegas smiled grimly. Poetic justice. A traitor hunted by the very people he served. Jack pocketed the drive. Now he didn't just have proof. He had leverage. Jack stood across the street from a sleek modern home in Arlington. A manicured lawn. Bright red door. Cole Merritt's address. Per his tax records. It wasn't empty. Inside, a woman made breakfast. Early 30s. Blonde. Thin. A little boy, maybe 5, sat on a booster seat, kicking his feet against the cabinet. Cole wasn't just some mercenary hiding in shadows. He had a family. Jack took a photo. Then another, the boy's face framed in the window. He sent the images to Vega. Seconds later, she replied, confirmed. Wife, Grace Merritt. Married 6 years. No record of Melissa in his life. Jack exhaled through his nose. So Cole had secrets, too. And Jack knew how to use them. 2 hours later, he was in a coffee shop downtown. Disposable phone in hand. Dialed the number registered under G. Merritt. Hello, a woman answered. Grace, Jack said calmly. My name is Jack Renshaw. You don't know me, but I know your husband. And I think you deserve the truth. A pause. Who is this? He's been sleeping with my wife. Plotting to kill me. And using your name to cover his money trails. Silence. Then, I'm calling the police. You should. And the FBI. I'll send you files. He texted her the photos, the hotel footage, the encrypted logs. 5 minutes later, his phone rang again. I need to know my son is safe, she said, voice breaking. He is, Jack said. For now. But Cole? He's about to learn what it's like to lose everything. She didn't reply. She didn't have to. He hung up, stepped into the sunlight. Melissa had fallen for a man with another family. Cole had betrayed both sides. Jack wasn't the only man with something to reclaim. Now he had allies. Melissa was glowing. Jack watched from the patio door as she set the dining table with folded napkins and vintage plates they hadn't used in 5 years. A bottle of aged Merlot sat breathing by the centerpiece. She lit candles like it was a celebration, not a cover. He played along. Expecting company, he asked casually, slipping on a smile. Just a couple from my firm, she said sweetly. Cole and I, she paused. Cole and they might have a new investment opportunity for us. Jack raised an eyebrow. Us? That's sudden. Melissa leaned in, kissed his cheek. Trust me, you'll like them. He forced a chuckle. I bet I will. What she didn't know was that Jack had already sent out his own invitations. At 7 p.m. sharp, The guests arrived. Melissa opened the door with her perfect hostess smile, expecting a pair of bland corporate suits. Instead, she found herself face to face with two former field agents from Jack's days in South Asia, both now high-profile defense contractors. Ex-military. Sharp eyes. Jack clapped a hand on Cole's back as he entered. Cole Merritt, right? Thought I'd bring in some old friends from my time overseas. You're in tech. Yeah. Cole stiffened. That's right. Cybersecurity. Funny, Jack said with a smirk. So were they. In fact, I think you all might have crossed paths before. Melissa's face froze. Her eyes darted between them, realizing the room wasn't what she expected. Jack poured wine for everyone. To old colleagues and new conversations. Dinner unfolded like a chess game. The agents, now fully briefed by Jack, asked innocent-sounding questions laced with bait. So, Cole, what unit were you in again? Where'd you do your training? Langley? Fort Meade. Cole answered vaguely, sweat beading under his collar. Melissa's hands trembled slightly as she cut her steak. Jack watched them both unravel. The moment was perfect, just enough pressure to raise suspicion without snapping the trap. By dessert, Melissa's smile was glass. Cole looked ready to bolt. Jack raised his glass. To clarity, he said coldly. And in his head, he counted down the moves left until checkmate. The silence in the house that night was different. He could feel it, a tension under the floorboards, a vibration behind every doorknob. Jack had shattered the illusion, and now the fear was real, tangible. Melissa sat curled on the couch, wine glass shaking slightly in her hand. Why would you invite those people? She asked, barely holding the tone steady. Jack shrugged from the hallway, pretending to text. Thought you wanted investors. They're not investors, Jack. They're intelligence. Oh? And how would you know that? She opened her mouth, paused, caught in her own logic. He walked to the fridge, pulled out a beer. You're acting like you've got something to hide. Her eyes locked onto him, cold now. She didn't reply. Later that night, Jack reviewed his surveillance feeds. Melissa's phone call to Cole came at 2:14 a.m. They know something. We have to accelerate. Cole, did you give them anything? Anything concrete? No. But Jack's onto us. He's playing dumb. But that dinner, that was a warning. Jack played the recording back twice. That was all he needed. But the next morning brought an unexpected blow. Melissa's sister, Caroline, had been staying in a nearby city. Jack received an alert from a traffic cam Vega was monitoring. Her car had been set on fire outside her apartment. Not Melissa's doing directly, but it was connected. It had Black Halo written all over it. He called Caroline. She was sobbing. I thought it was a random act. But a man came by last night. He asked about you. About Melissa. Then this. Jack's voice was steel. You need to get out. I'll send someone. He hung up and clenched his fists. They were moving now, too sloppy, too bold. Cole was no longer protecting Melissa. He was cleaning up behind her. And Jack realized the woman he once loved wasn't just a pawn anymore. She was willing to burn everyone just to survive. The next few days, Jack played a new role, the broken husband. He let his shoulders droop. Missed conversations. Sat in front of the TV blankly for hours. Occasionally, he muttered to himself. Melissa watched with subtle relief. She thought he was slipping. At breakfast, he stirred his coffee 3 times, stared at the spoon, then chuckled to himself. You okay? She asked, cautiously. Did you hear it? He whispered, eyes wide. Hear what? He leaned in, as if telling her a secret. The spoon was talking. She froze for half a second, then smiled nervously. Maybe you should rest today. I see them sometimes, he added. In the window. Melissa reached for her phone when she thought he wasn't looking. He saw the text. He's breaking. I think we move forward sooner. Jack slipped out the back door and walked into the garage. Inside his Jeep, he exhaled and dropped the act. Vega's voice crackled through the earpiece. She bought it. Good. You sure this is safe? If she thinks you're cracking, she'll rush, Jack said. She'll get sloppy. That's what I want. He walked back inside as Melissa finished texting. She smiled gently. You want to go for a walk later? Jack blinked like he didn't hear her. Yeah, Sure. Walk. He walked past her to the den, then called loudly, "Have you seen my dad lately? I think he's in the fireplace." Melissa froze. Her hands trembled. He saw it, the first true doubt in her eyes. She thought she was winning, but Jack was already 3 moves ahead, because while she thought she was writing his obituary, he was scripting her downfall, line by line. Melissa stood at the sink, humming softly as she washed 2 wine glasses. Jack entered behind her, towel slung over his shoulder, freshly showered. "Smells good," he said casually. "Pasta tonight," she replied with that same artificial sweetness. He smiled. "You always did know how to cook poison into pleasure." She froze, just for a beat, before recovering with a grin. "Well, dark joke, even for you." Jack laughed lightly and kissed her temple. That night, they ate at the dining table for the first time in weeks. Wine flowed. Melissa's mood lifted, believing the mask of madness had made her safe again. When she excused herself to shower, Jack checked the bottle. Just as he suspected, the cork had been swapped. He sniffed the rim. Slight almond scent. Cyanide's signature. Jack's hands didn't shake. He walked to the sink and poured his wine into the drain, running the faucet as he did. Then, from his pocket, he pulled a hidden vial filled with laxatives. He topped off his glass, sat down, and sipped. Melissa returned in a robe. "You okay?" she asked. "Feeling a little weird," he murmured, clutching his stomach. "Might be the wine." She perked up almost too quickly. "Should I call someone?" Jack stood slowly, staggering just enough. "No. I just need to lie down." He walked to the couch and collapsed with a soft groan. She hovered near him, watching, waiting. 2 minutes passed. She grabbed her phone and whispered. He drank it. "It's starting." Jack cracked one eye open just a slit, then closed it again. He recorded every word. Her betrayal now existed in her own voice. By the time she slipped out to get help, Jack was in his hidden office, exporting the audio to 3 encrypted drives. She thought she'd killed him, but she'd only triggered the next phase. Jack had 7 days to vanish. Not just disappear, die convincingly. Vega handled the digital cleanup. A crash report. Bribed paramedics. A car registered under Jack's name, torched in a controlled explosion off Route 50. Dental records planted. Watch melted into the console. Vega even deepfaked a body photo for the police to identify. Jack watched his own death scroll across the TV screen in a hotel room an hour out of town. Decorated CIA veteran dies in tragic accident. No foul play suspected. Melissa's crocodile tears aired on the 6 p.m. news. She wore black, dabbed her eyes with tissue, spoke to reporters. "He was struggling," she said. "Mentally. I tried everything." Jack watched in silence, sipping lukewarm coffee. "She's selling it," Vega said, arms crossed as she leaned against the dresser. "Oscar-worthy. She always was a performer." "And Cole?" Jack pulled up the tracker feed. "He's off-grid. Last ping was near Fairfax 2 nights ago. He knows something's off." Melissa wasn't the only one being watched. That night, Jack sent a package to Grace Merritt, Cole's wife, containing every file Vega had decrypted. Affairs, kill orders, financial theft. All of it. No note. Just one line scribbled across the first page. "He buried others before you. Don't let him bury you too." The next morning, Jack hacked into Melissa's laptop remotely using a cloned access point Vega planted months ago. Her inbox was flooded with realtors, lawyers, investment firms. She'd already filed a widow's claim, life insurance, property transfer. She was moving fast because she believed the game was over. But Jack was alive and watching. The widow wasn't going to inherit anything. She was about to drown in everything she stole. Melissa drove to her lawyer's office in Georgetown at 10 a.m. sharp, dressed like a grieving spouse. Behind her, 2 cars back, Jack watched from the passenger seat of Vega's matte black van. "She's early," Vega said, chewing on a protein bar. "Cocky." "No. She's scared. That's why she's rushing the paperwork." Jack had looped into her attorney's calendar with a backdoor Vega built into the cloud suite. He knew her meeting slot to the second. Inside, Melissa handed over the forged will. She smiled, cried a little. I just want to close this chapter. But her voice trembled slightly when she said, close. Jack turned to Vega. Push it now. She hit enter on her laptop. At that moment, Melissa's bank app froze. The lawyer looked confused. Ms. Renshaw, the transfer's been flagged. It says there's an audit in progress. An audit? Of what? I'm not sure. Jack whispered into his mic, which Vega patched into the building's phone line. A second later, Melissa's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. This is the insurance fraud division, Jack said in a disguised voice. We've detected irregular activity in your policy claim. You'll need to report to our regional office within 48 hours. Melissa's heart rate spiked. She hung up, confused, and turned pale. The trap had been sprung. Jack watched her stand up, stammering to her lawyer. I'll call you. I need to make some calls. Outside, Vega grinned. She's off balance. She's unraveling. As Melissa rushed back to her car, Jack ducked into the alley. He didn't want to be seen. Not yet. But he whispered something under his breath as her tires screeched away. Breathe, Melissa. This is just the beginning. Because now, Jack Renshaw wasn't just haunting her memories. He was haunting her life. Melissa sat stiffly in the mahogany-paneled office of Whitmore and Klein, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Her black dress clung like armor, pearls at her neck reflecting the soft light. Jack's will, the forged version she had submitted, was set to be read today in front of a witness from the insurance firm. Her act was rehearsed. Soft tears, controlled grief, legal closure. Mr. Klein adjusted his glasses and opened the folder. There's been an unexpected development, he said slowly. Melissa's brow lifted. What do you mean? The lawyer cleared his throat. This morning, a new version of the will was submitted by a third party and authenticated by our digital signature analysis system. Melissa froze. I don't understand. This version revokes the prior documents you provided. That's impossible. He signed it. Klein turned the page. I leave the entirety of my estate and insurance to a charitable trust in the name of Elena Renshaw, my late mother. All claims filed prior to this revision are void. This is my final, conscious wish. Melissa's breath caught. No, that's not right. He didn't. Klein looked up. The attached video confirms his mental state and intent. He turned the screen toward her. Jack's face appeared. Calm, sharp-eyed. If you're watching this, Jack said in the video, then congratulations, Melissa. You've outlived me. But you didn't win. Her skin went cold. I saw everything. I recorded everything. You tried to erase me. Instead, I left behind a truth no lawyer can bury. The lawyer looked stunned. The witness from the insurance firm said nothing, just stood and walked out. Melissa's jaw clenched. Her fake grief cracked into silent panic. Outside, parked across the street, Jack watched it all on the live stream Vega patched from a planted bug. She saw the video, Vega confirmed. She's officially frozen. Insurance just locked her out. Jack smiled slightly, his eyes cold. Now she knows this isn't about money, he said. It's about control. By noon the next day, Melissa's perfect life was in full collapse. It started with whispers online, anonymous accounts posting grainy footage of her and Cole in that hotel room. Then came audio leaks, her phone calls, edited and captioned, dropped like bombs on every major social platform. Vega pushed the footage through a network of proxies, Reddit threads, news tip lines. Within hours, the widow conspiracy was trending nationwide. News anchors picked it up. Podcasts dissected every frame. YouTube exploded with reaction videos. Ex-CIA veteran targeted an elaborate scheme by cheating wife and her secret lover, now revealed as ex-private military contractor with a deadly past. One headline read, Black Widow or Black Ops? Melissa tried to release a statement. It backfired. She's lying, one former Black Halo associate commented anonymously. Cole Merritt doesn't date. He recruits. The footage of Cole with Melissa was everywhere, followed by his own secret life, photos with his real wife, Grace, and their son. Grace issued her own statement. I was married to a killer. I only found out when the man he tried to murder reached out to save me. Cole's face was now etched into public memory. Jack watched it unfold from a quiet cabin Vega secured outside Alexandria. You just turned private revenge into public exposure, Vega said, arms crossed. You sure you want to keep going? Jack stared at the screen. Melissa's face on national news. Crying. Begging. I haven't even started. He looked at Vega. I want Cole found. I want him exposed from the inside. And I want Melissa to feel what I did when she tried to bury me. Vega nodded. Then it's time, she said. Jack stood, picked up the last hard drive. Let's burn the rest of their world down. Melissa's front door was barricaded by reporters by morning. She stepped out in a hoodie and sunglasses, phone to her ear. Her voice trembled. Cole, it's everywhere. I'm being hunted. I told you we had to leave earlier, he snapped through the line. We have to vanish now. You don't understand. Jack's alive. Silence on the other end. You said he was dead, she shouted. I never saw the body, Cole hissed. That was your job. You bastard. You're just going to run. Cole hung up. Melissa dropped the phone. Her breath came fast and shallow. Back inside, she tore through her drawers, pulling out passports, burner phones, cash. Everything they'd planned. The new IDs, the offshore accounts, all frozen. Her laptop pinged with an incoming email. Subject, you'll never be safe. She opened it. A video. Her in the hotel with Cole. Time-stamped. Synced with a second clip. Jack in their home days earlier, staring into the same camera that caught her drugging his wine. Then another clip. Her own voice. He drank it. It's starting. Her knees buckled. Another email came through. Subject, run, Melissa. She slammed the laptop shut. Then she ran. She didn't know where, just away. But behind her, cameras were still rolling. Every gas station, every ATM, every shadow. Jack wasn't chasing her. He was tracking her. He didn't need to touch her to destroy her. He'd become a ghost in her life. A voice in her head. A name that haunted her from every dark hallway, every locked door. And Melissa Renshaw, once the hunter, was now the prey. The email that hit Cole's inbox was simple. Subject, payback. He opened it. One line. Your wife knows. Your employers know. And now the feds do too. Attached, for files. The first, a video of Cole and Melissa in the Flamingo Hotel. The second, tax records from his Cayman shell accounts. The third, satellite imagery from a 2011 massacre Cole had ordered in Kandahar, still buried, until now. And the fourth, an FBI-issued subpoena. Cole's hand shook as he backed away from the laptop. He'd spent years erasing his past. Black Halo had taught him how to disappear, how to rewrite identities, how to burn bridges before they could catch fire. But Jack hadn't just exposed him. He'd buried him. Cole grabbed the phone and dialed a scrambled number. Plan B. We're activating it. The voice on the other end was curt. You've been compromised. No. I can fix it. Click. They cut him off. He was now a liability. Cole ripped the laptop cord out of the wall, smashed the screen. Outside, his neighbor was walking a dog. Normal. Calm. But inside Cole's head, everything was spinning. He threw cash into a bag, grabbed a weapon from the drawer. The GPS tracker in his car was disabled within seconds, but Jack had already accounted for that. Cole didn't know the watch on his wrist, gifted by Melissa weeks ago, had a chip sewn under the leather band. Jack was watching him move through the city like a glowing red blip. Vega's voice crackled through his earpiece. He's trying to run. Jack stared at the screen. Good. Let him. He leaned forward, eyes locked. It's time he met the consequences face to face. Melissa's burner buzzed on the motel nightstand. She'd been up for hours, hiding in a $40 a night dive off Highway 7. Her mascara was smudged. Her hoodie damp from sweat and rain. She grabbed the phone without checking the number. Cole. But it wasn't his voice. It was Jack's. Wrong number, Melissa. Silence. She sat up. What do you want? I'm just checking in. Making sure your motel doesn't have bedbugs. She scanned the room, heart pounding. Where are you? I'm closer than you think. She stood and yanked the curtain open, just shadows outside. You were going to kill me, Melissa. Slowly. Painfully. I thought I deserved it. I actually started to believe I was the broken one. She swallowed, unable to answer. But now I see. I was your mirror. The one thing you couldn't fake your way past. Her voice cracked. Why didn't you just disappear? I did. You just weren't paying attention. Jack, please. I didn't want. You didn't want to get caught. He paused. Cole's next. I hope you warned him. You don't understand, she whispered. They'll kill both of us. They won't let this go public. It already is, Jack said flatly. The line went dead. Melissa stood in the middle of the room, shaking, staring at the phone like it had just spoken her future. Jack stepped away from the payphone outside 2 blocks down. Vega's voice came in again. He just changed cars, trying to swap IDs. Jack nodded. Let him dance. This thing's becoming a wildfire. Jack walked back to his van, then let it burn. Because this wasn't about hiding anymore. This was about finishing what they started. Cole's new identity didn't last 36 hours. He checked into a private rental outside Baltimore under the name Gavin Blake. By the time he ordered food and showered, the front door exploded inward. Federal agents stormed in, vests, rifles, commands shouted. Hands up. On the ground. Cole didn't resist. He was face down within seconds, cuffed, dragged through the broken door as neighbors stared from behind blinds. Inside the van, an agent slapped a thick folder against the seat next to him. Your fake company laundered money through 3 defense contracts. But that's not what we're here for. Cole kept his mouth shut. The agent leaned in. We have footage. Audio. Names. You're looking at conspiracy to commit murder, financial fraud, and several violations of federal espionage law. Still silent. You think you're protected? Your former friends have already disavowed you. Your girlfriend sold you out. That got his attention. The agent tossed a phone onto his lap. Screen lit up. Melissa. Crying. Talking. Confessing. This was all his plan, she said in the video. I just wanted out. Cole stared at the screen. She flipped. He laughed. A bitter, humorless sound. She's good at that, he muttered. The agent leaned back. You've got one shot. You give us names. Contracts. Everything. Cole didn't blink. I'll give you Jack Renshaw. He's not under investigation. He should be, Cole said, smirking. Because this wasn't revenge. It was a Black Ops takedown. The agent hesitated. Cole saw it. Put me in front of a judge, I'll talk. But I'm not walking in without protection. Jack watched it all from the feed Vega hacked through the FBI's satellite uplink. He sipped his drink slowly. Let him talk, he said. Why? Vega asked. He'll twist it all. Jack's eyes narrowed. Because I want to know who else was pulling the strings. Jack checked into room 829 of the Monroe Grand under the alias David Kane. The room was bare. Neutral tones. Business class amenities. Forgettable. Exactly what he needed. He was meeting an FBI contact, someone from his past. Someone who promised answers about how Cole stayed protected for so long. Vega had set it up. This guy's clean, she'd said. Worked with you in Cairo. He owes you one. At 9:15 p.m., there was a knock. Jack opened the door, cautious but confident. The man at the threshold wasn't who he expected. It was Melissa. Wig. Glasses. Gun in hand. Step back. Jack didn't flinch. You're getting sloppy. She entered like she still owned the room. Door locked behind her. He didn't move. She kept the gun trained on him. You think this is over? She hissed. You ruined me, Jack. No. You ruined yourself. I loved you. You plotted my murder. Melissa's hands shook now, but the barrel didn't lower. Cole's gone. They cut him off. You think that clears you? You think this was ever just about him? She reached into her coat with her free hand and tossed a file onto the table. Photos. Names. Emails. You weren't the target, Jack. You were the leverage. Jack narrowed his eyes. Melissa's breathing hitched. They needed you discredited. Destroyed. Because you were too close to something. He stepped toward her. She didn't shoot. Who are they? She didn't answer. But her eyes, they said it all. This wasn't a love affair gone wrong. This was an operation. And Melissa? She was never just his wife. She was the last domino in a shadow game Jack didn't even know he was still playing. Melissa sat on the bed now, the gun placed on the nightstand between them. Jack hadn't picked it up. He didn't need to. I met Cole 2 years before I met you, she said quietly. He wasn't Cole then. He was just another man I was told to shadow. He gave me files. Names. You were always in them. You're saying our marriage was a mission? Not at first. But yes. Jack stared at her. I fell in love with you. That wasn't fake. He scoffed. Then you plotted my death. Just a rough patch, huh? She looked away. When Black Halo went dark, Cole went rogue. He stopped taking orders. I tried to disappear, but I was still being watched. And me? They wanted you neutralized. Your intel. Your operations. All of it. You were too close to uncovering the offshore network tied to defense black budgets. Jack stood jaw tight. So the woman I trusted most was sent to dismantle me. No, she said, rising. I was sent to seduce you. But I stayed because I loved you. That's not love, Jack said coldly. That's a cage dressed as a promise. He picked up the file she'd brought. Names. Wire transfers. 2 senators. A former NATO commander. You're just handing this over? I'm already dead, she whispered. They'll never stop hunting me. But if you survive, maybe one of us can end it. He looked at her one last time. He didn't see a wife anymore. He saw a weapon, dulled and discarded, but still dangerous. Leave the city, he said. Disappear. If I see you again, I finish it. She nodded. Jack left her there, alone, in the room where truth finally detonated. Jack drove through the rain, windshield wipers struggling to keep up with the storm-hammering DC. Melissa's revelations were spinning in his head. Every mission, every dead contact, every betrayal. They weren't random. They were orchestrated. By who? The next morning, Vega called. We have a problem, she said. Another one? I traced the subpoena that landed Cole in custody. It didn't come from the Bureau. What? It was spoofed. Fabricated. Someone used it to flush him out. Someone who knew he'd flip on me. Jack realized. Exactly. And now Cole's gone. Jack's chest tightened. Gone how? He escaped during transfer. 2 agents dead. Jack slammed the brakes. And Melissa? No trace. She went off-grid. Could be dead. Could be playing dead. Jack pulled into a garage and parked. He was done playing defense. He reached into the glove box, pulled out a drive labeled Endgame. I'm going dark. Vega's voice hardened. Jack, this isn't a one-man mission anymore. You need backup. He looked into the rearview mirror. Saw the man he used to be. The one he buried beneath trust, routine, marriage. No, I need truth. And I'm going to tear it out of whoever's left behind the curtain. Click. Call ended. He stepped out into the storm, hood pulled low. Somewhere, Cole was running. Melissa was hiding. And someone bigger was pulling every string from the shadows. But Jack Renshaw? He was the last ghost standing. And he was about to burn the whole damn network down. The drive to Baltimore was quiet. Jack rarely played music in the car anymore. Silence helped him think. And right now, he needed clarity. Vega had sent him one last file before going dark for a few days. A decrypted personnel folder buried inside the Black Halo database. Inside that file, a birth certificate. Mother, Melissa Renshaw. Father, unknown. Child, Eva Renshaw. Date of birth, May 14, 2007. Jack's heart had stopped for 3 full beats when he saw it. Melissa had a child? No, they had a child. She'd never told him. Vega confirmed Eva was now a young adult working under an alias, Eva Ryland, in a junior position at a private cybersecurity firm that contracted with military research. Her digital fingerprints were clean. Too clean. Jack parked across from the firm's building and waited. At 5:42 p.m., she walked out, dark jacket, ponytail, earbuds in, coffee in hand. She looked like Melissa, but her eyes. His. He followed from a distance, not ready to speak, not ready to be known. She took the subway, rode it alone, confident, calm. Jack finally made the decision. At her apartment building, he approached just as she unlocked the front gate. Eva, he said quietly, She turned, surprised, stepping back. Do I know you? No, he said. But I know you. Creep. I'm not here to scare you. I just need 5 minutes. She hesitated, then nodded slowly. Talk. Inside the lobby, Jack looked at her carefully. Did your mother ever tell you who your father was? Eva narrowed her eyes. She said he died before I was born. Jack handed her the folder. She opened it. Silence. I didn't know. Until now. She looked at him again, studied him like she was scanning a code. And then she asked the only question that mattered. Why are you here now? They flew commercial under aliases. No trail. Jack and Eva sat 2 rows apart, not speaking much. It wasn't time for a father-daughter reunion. It was time to finish what Melissa had started and Cole had tried to bury. The flight landed in Denver at 11:12 p.m. A contact Vega arranged picked them up and drove through the night into the Rockies. By sunrise, they arrived at a remote service station near Gunnison. Beneath it, according to Vega's recovered blueprints, sat a decommissioned Black Halo data vault. Off-grid, untouched, it held the master files, not just on Jack, but on every operation, every asset, every bribe and contract tied to the rogue intelligence network that had spent years hunting him. Eva helped bypass the gate's legacy security using her own equipment. I thought you worked entry-level IT? Jack asked. She smirked. I lied. Jack raised an eyebrow. You are your mother's daughter. They reached a steel-reinforced bunker hidden beneath a service elevator shaft. Inside, racks of servers, dust-covered terminals, sealed crates marked with agency codes. Eva booted up the mainframe, watching as the old system blinked to life. Files began pouring in: contracts with government seals, internal emails from military officials, wire transfers from shell companies in Dubai, Bangkok, Berlin, blackmail, murder, proxy wars, all archived and tagged. Jack stood still, surrounded by truth too dangerous to exist. I've been hunting ghosts, he whispered. And here they are. Eva glanced at him. You said they killed your life. If we leak this, you'll kill theirs. He nodded slowly. Then let's make sure the fire spreads. She inserted a drive labeled Activate. Encrypted upload. Live transfer. Anonymous blockchain broadcast set to trigger across mirrored sites worldwide. Once it began, it couldn't be stopped. Jack stood over the terminal. His hand hovered above the keyboard. Let them know what they created, he muttered. Then hit enter. The first knock came at 3:21 a.m. The cabin in the mountains was still. Eva was asleep in the second room. Jack stood by the window, Glock holstered at his waist. A second knock. He stepped to the door, checked the peephole. Melissa. Alive. Pale. Hands raised. He opened the door, not wide, just enough. You look like hell, he said. You destroyed everything, she rasped. They're coming after all of us now. Good. I didn't come to fight. You came to run. I came to warn you. She handed him a small flash drive. They're going to erase Denver next. The whole site. Full fire protocol. You've got maybe 6 hours. Jack took it. Checked the encryption. Clean. Eva stepped out from the hallway. Melissa froze. Her eyes watered. Eva. Eva stood still. So it's true. Jack looked between them, emotion buried beneath control. I had a right to know, Eva said. Melissa stepped forward, voice trembling. I wanted to protect you. You wanted to control the lie. Cole manipulated me. You let him. Melissa's shoulders dropped. For once, she looked defeated. Jack finally spoke. The upload's live. This drive helps seal it. I won't stop you, Melissa said. I just want her to be safe. Jack stared at her. You don't get to ask for that anymore. Then he turned to Eva. You ready to finish this? Eva nodded. Melissa stepped back, tears welling. I'm sorry. But no one answered. Because sorry doesn't rebuild a life. It just echoes in the ruins. The old church stood broken on the edge of the valley, nothing but a skeleton of stone, ash, and wind. Melissa stared at it from the passenger seat as Jack drove. Her hands were folded tight in her lap. Eva sat in the back, quiet but alert. This is where it started, Melissa whispered. Jack didn't respond. She continued, voice raw. They recruited me here. Not in an office. Not at a fancy gala. In this burned-out ruin. Garza sat on a pew with a bottle of whiskey and a manila envelope. Said I could be special. Eva leaned forward. And you believed him? Melissa nodded slowly. I was 20. Poor. Invisible. He promised me a life I never thought I deserved. Jack turned off the engine. The silence was heavy. They trained me for 2 years. Psychological pressure, seduction, misdirection. I was built to infiltrate men like you, she said, looking at Jack. And you did, he replied, flatly. But I didn't expect to fall in love with you, Melissa said. Jack shook his head. You didn't fall in love. You fell into control. You just didn't like it when I started pulling my own strings. Eva spoke softly. You gave me away, didn't you? Melissa looked down. I was scared what they'd do if they knew I kept you. You didn't keep me. You abandoned me, Eva snapped. Jack stepped between them. Enough. He opened the door. This place has one more ghost to give us. We get the last drive. Then we vanish. Melissa hesitated before following. Eva didn't. Whatever grief Melissa carried, it came too late. And Jack knew. Once this was over, there'd be no going back to whatever they once were. Because the only thing left between them now was unfinished war. Chapter 32. When the predator falls in love, the underground vault beneath the church had long since been condemned, but Jack knew how to find the entrance. Vega had marked it with a thermal map 2 years ago, hidden under a shattered altar stone. Eva pried it open. Dust rose. Jack dropped first, landing on metal grating. Melissa followed. The vault reeked of mildew, old files, and buried secrets. Jack found the locker, A13. Same code used in a file Melissa had left behind. Inside was a single black briefcase, locked with a biometric scan. Melissa stepped forward. It's mine. She placed her palm on the scanner. Click. The case hissed open. Inside, photos, IDs, and one yellowing notebook. Handwritten. Jack picked it up and flipped through. Diagrams. Names. Bank routes. Dossiers marked terminated. And a photo of him. Labeled. Target retired asset. Re-evaluation required. Jack froze. This was before we met, Melissa said. You were flagged for destruction. But I told them you were broken. Harmless. You convinced them to delay killing me? Jack snapped. That's your defense? Melissa looked at him, eyes brimming. I fell in love with you, Jack. That's real. Eva scoffed. You used that word too easily. I lied to everyone, Melissa whispered, but never to myself about what you meant. Jack stood silent, the weight of years pressing on his chest. You chose control over truth, he said finally. And that's not love. He took the notebook and closed the case. We leaked the rest. Then we burned this place. Whatever pieces of your story survive, they're not ours to carry. Melissa wiped her eyes. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't fight back. She just nodded and followed Jack up into the light. Back at the mountain cabin, Jack lined up every drive, every file, every ounce of proof they'd gathered. The firestorm was ready. He pulled out a whiteboard and mapped out targets. Encrypted leaks to whistleblower sites, political watchdogs, military courts, and journalists too stubborn to be silenced. Eva handled the encryption. Melissa identified key assets worth exposing. It was the strangest alliance Jack had ever led. A soldier, a spy, and a daughter who'd been raised in lies. This one, Eva said, pointing to a folder marked Operative 47 Delta, ties a sitting senator to a black halo-run arms ring in Sudan. Jack nodded. We lead with that. Melissa added, these 2 ops show contract killings ordered inside U.S. borders. Jack looked at her. Why help now? Melissa didn't answer immediately. Then, because they'll bury this unless we set it on fire in the right order. The plan was simple. Once the first leak dropped, the rest followed. A chain reaction of truth so explosive it couldn't be contained. They used decentralized uploading, mirror backups, blockchain verification. Every leak would be impossible to erase. By midnight, the first payload launched. 10 minutes later, a foreign news site headlined, CIA-linked contractors accused of war crimes. Documents surface. By dawn, It was global. Pentagon officials were cornered on live TV. Lawmakers scrambled to issue statements. Known mercenaries went dark. Jack watched it unfold. Eva turned to him. "We did it." Jack nodded, then said quietly, "Now we wait for the hit back." Because truth this loud didn't go unanswered. And retaliation was already on the way. 3 days later, Melissa sat alone in a federal courtroom. Jack didn't show. Eva did. Across from her sat Cole, cuffed, sunken-eyed, and flanked by federal agents. His deal had been revoked. He'd been forced to testify in exchange for life in isolation. His voice was empty as he answered the prosecutor's questions. "Yes, I falsified mission reports. Yes, I knowingly accepted kill orders on American soil. Yes, Melissa Renshaw was my contact and accomplice." Melissa didn't react. Eva watched it all, arms crossed. Melissa's lawyer tried to paint her as a manipulated pawn, a woman caught in a violent system. But the evidence was clear. The video of her drugging Jack, the recordings of her calls with Cole, the testimonies, the fake will, the insurance claim, every layer she'd built to destroy the man she once claimed to love. By verdict day, Melissa stood before the judge. "You used trust as a weapon," the judge said, "and nearly erased a man to secure a future that wasn't yours." Guilty. Sentenced to 25 years without parole. No gasp. No breakdown. Melissa simply nodded, as if she'd already known this was her ending. As she was escorted out, she glanced back once, toward Eva, but Eva didn't blink. Because sometimes, justice doesn't need a scream. It only needs silence. The news footage rolled like a hurricane through every screen in America. Melissa Renshaw, disgraced intelligence asset, convicted conspirator, was now just a prisoner. No makeup. No sunglasses. Just an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs as she was loaded into a transport van. Jack watched from a safe house in Oregon. Alone. Calm. The screen cut to Cole's sentencing. Life in a black site prison. No visitors. No name. Just a number. Jack clicked the TV off. There was no cheering. No tears. No emotional breakdown. Just stillness. The kind that only comes after you've burned every bridge behind you and survived the flames. His phone buzzed. A message from Eva. They called. "You won't be charged. The files cleared your name. It's over, Dad." He didn't reply right away. He walked to the porch, the Oregon rain misting over the fields. Fresh air. Real quiet. Then typed one word. Good. Because justice had been delivered, not cleanly, not painlessly, but thoroughly. And now, finally, he had what had been stolen from him. Truth. Jack's days changed. He woke at dawn. Chopped wood. Brewed his coffee over a gas flame. No earpieces. No trackers. No eyes in the walls. The world still spun in chaos, but his small corner of it felt real for once. Eva visited once a week. She'd taken a job in ethical cyber intelligence, consulting for NGOs, helping expose digital warfare crimes. Jack helped when she asked. Quietly. In the background. He didn't want headlines anymore. One afternoon, Eva asked him, "Do you feel better? After everything?" Jack thought for a while, then said, "No. I just feel free." "Isn't that the same thing?" He smiled. They sat on the porch, watching clouds crawl across the sky. Jack's hand rested on the armrest. Calm. Steady. He wasn't healed. Not entirely. But he was whole. And that was enough. Jack bought land. 10 acres just outside the forest. He didn't build much. Just a one-story cabin with a reinforced basement and a quiet, well-kept garden. No alarms. Just dogs. Real ones. 2 strays he named Ghost and Delta. He put a workbench in the shed, started carving again. He'd learned it in Kandahar between missions. Now he made chairs. Tables. Gave them to neighbors. He was no longer the ghost. No longer the hunted. Just Jack Renshaw, the quiet man at the edge of town who kept to himself, but nodded politely at the grocery store. He didn't disappear. He redefined himself. And as word of the global leak continued to stir public trials, whistleblowing reforms, and government purges, Jack stayed in his woods, watching, listening, and carving something real. It arrived in spring. Unmarked envelope. No return address. Jack opened it slowly. Inside, a handwritten note. You survived what no one else could. You exposed what they buried. You never stopped being the mission. No signature. Just a fingerprint smudged at the bottom, Melissa's. Jack stared at it. He didn't feel anger. Just acceptance. He burned the letter in the fire at that night. Watched the flames chew through every loop of her cursive. Eva came by the next day. Anything interesting in the mail? He shook his head. Just ashes. She grinned. Want to help me set up a new server node? He stood, stretched his back. Yeah, he said. Let's build something that doesn't need to be hidden. Because the past was buried. But the legacy? That was still alive. Capitol Hill was still shaking. The files Jack released hadn't just gone viral. They'd caused resignations, indictments, and public outrage on a scale unseen in decades. Hearings ran round the clock. Live broadcasts cut between senators denying knowledge and agents confirming what Jack had exposed, that for years, a covert pipeline of private contractors had been eliminating threats off books with zero oversight. Some called it treason. Others called it justice delayed. One headline read, Veteran operatives leaked files lead to largest intelligence scandal in U.S. history. But Jack wasn't watching. He was planting tomatoes in his garden. He didn't want fame. He wanted impact. Eva, though, kept tabs. And when a whistleblower protection bill was passed in his name, the Renshaw Reform Act, she read the entire thing to him on the porch. Jack listened in silence. Then said, Burns slower than war, but it still spreads. Eva smiled. You changed something. Jack shook his head. We did. And though the city still spun in chaos, and others scrambled to contain the fire, Jack was finally out of the blast zone. 1 month later, Jack received an encrypted message from Vega. One last favor. One last truth. She had stitched together a video part confession, part documentary, part testimony, built from years of Jack's footage, mission logs, Melissa's files, and the fallout that followed. You don't have to show it, Vega had said. But if you do, it seals everything. Jack waited, watched it twice, then uploaded it anonymously to 5 major global outlets. The title, The Operative Who Refused to Die. It went live at 9 p.m. By midnight, it had 30 million views. Jack didn't speak in it often. Most of the story was told through evidence, recorded truth, silent footage of lies unraveling. The final clip was simple. A grainy video of Jack walking away from a burning field, his face calm, smoke rising behind him. Eva watched the whole thing in silence. When it ended, she whispered, That's the version of you the world needs to remember. Jack said nothing, because the truth now spoke for itself. One evening, just as the sun dipped below the pines, a truck pulled into the gravel road. Jack reached for his sidearm out of habit, but paused. A woman stepped out. Late 50s. Sharp eyes. Grace Merritt, Cole's wife. Jack opened the door. I didn't think I'd see you again, he said evenly. Grace nodded. I wasn't sure I'd come. She stepped forward. Slow. They let him rot. He'll never see light again. I know. Grace looked around. Your place is peaceful. Jack said nothing. She pulled a letter from her coat. He wrote this before sentencing. Told me to give it to you. Said you deserved to know the last thing he ever meant. Jack took it. Didn't open it. Grace added, I hated him. But I also know the system made him what he was. So did Melissa, Jack said. Yeah. And it chewed both of them up. She looked him in the eyes. You didn't just get revenge. You ended the machine. Then she left, just as quietly as she came. Jack stood under the porch light, staring at the letter in his hand. He didn't read it that night. He just let the wind take it. Because the past didn't deserve a final word. Only closure. It rained the next morning. Jack sat with Eva in the woods, under a handmade wooden awning. Coffee steamed between them. Did you ever think we'd end up here? She asked. No, do you miss it? She added. The adrenaline? Jack thought for a long moment, then shook his head. No, I was a weapon too long. Now I'm something else. Eva leaned back. You know, people online call you a myth now. He chuckled. Good. Maybe they'll think twice before trusting myths with guns. She raised her cup. To peace? Jack raised his back. To knowing what peace costs. They clinked mugs. In the distance, birds chirped. The world was still wounded, still complicated. But for the first time, Jack wasn't part of its shadows. He was living in light. Not because he forgot what he'd done, but because he finally remembered who he was. Not a ghost. Not a killer. Not a target. A survivor who rewrote the ending. 2 months passed before Jack stepped into a public place again. It wasn't a courtroom. It wasn't a war zone. It was a classroom. Eva had invited him quietly, no names, no press, no special treatment. Just a guest speaker for a group of cybersecurity students at a state college in Portland. Jack stood in front of 20 curious faces. Young, eager, all of them raised in a digital world where truth was either weaponized or buried. He introduced himself as John. Ever been hacked? One student joked. Jack smiled faintly. Worse. I married my hacker. Laughter broke the tension. Then he told them what mattered, not the war stories, not the weapons, but the mindsets, how deception works when it wears the face of love, how systems fail when they silence the wrong people, how secrets never stay buried, not forever. He didn't mention Black Halo. He didn't say Melissa's name. But when one girl asked, "What made you finally go public?" he didn't hesitate. My daughter, Jack said. She reminded me I wasn't dead yet. The room went quiet. Later, as students lined up to shake his hand, one boy leaned in and whispered, "We've read the leaks. We know who you are." Jack met his eyes. "Then make sure you never become who I was." And with that, he stepped back into the hallway. Eva joined him outside. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," Jack said. "For once, I am." Because the mission wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about planting truth where no one expected it to grow. By summer, the headlines had shifted. New scandals. New crises. That's how the world moved. It never stood still for justice. But Jack noticed one story buried deep on a classified forum Vega gave him access to. A name. Garza. Still alive. Still hiding. Last known sighting. Argentina. Offshore accounts active again. He read the report 3 times. Then he closed the laptop and didn't touch it for a week. Eva found him splitting wood in the back lot. "You read it?" she asked. He nodded. "Are you going?" "No," she raised an eyebrow. "Why not?" Jack stabbed the axe into the stump. "Because I'm not the man I was when I started this." "You sure?" He looked at her. "I'm not after blood anymore. I'm after balance." Eva nodded. Slow. "That's good," she said. "But if you change your mind..." "I know how to find him." He smirked. Legacy, he realized, wasn't about who you eliminated. It was about who you left behind that could finish what you started or end it better. And right now, Eva was his legacy. And she'd already become the thing he never thought possible, a better version of him. A small package arrived in late August. No postmark. No return address. Inside, a necklace Jack hadn't seen in years, Melissa's. The one he gave her on their 2nd anniversary. Wrapped in a folded note. Asterisk. "You were the one real thing I had. I just didn't know how to keep it without destroying it." Asterisk Jack held the necklace in his palm for a long time. He didn't cry. But he didn't throw it away either. He walked to the edge of his property, where the forest thickened. There, beneath the oldest pine tree, he dug a small hole and buried it. Not to forget her. Not to forgive. Just to finally let go. When he walked back to the cabin, Eva was at the door, holding coffee. "You good?" she asked. Jack took the mug, nodded once. Lighter. That night, he slept without the nightmares. For the first time in years, Jack started writing again. Not a memoir. Not a confession. A journal. For Eva. For whoever came next. He wrote about Melissa. Honestly, the way she laughed. The way she lied. The love that might have been real even when everything around it was false. He wrote about Cole, not as a villain, but as a man caught in a system that turned killers into assets and mistakes into policy. He wrote about the agency, not with rage, but with clarity. And he wrote about himself, the soldier who became a ghost, then clawed his way back into the light. Eva read parts of it sometimes. She never commented much, just left a sticky note once on the last page. You didn't just survive this, Dad. You rewrote the rules. He smiled. Because stories don't always end with peace. Sometimes, they just end with clarity. And for Jack Renshaw, that was enough. The thunder rolled in low and steady as Jack sat at his kitchen table, the power flickering from the storm building outside. Rain tapped the windows like a slow metronome. Eva had left 2 days earlier, a field assignment with a watchdog agency she'd co-founded. She had real staff now. International reach. What started as vengeance had become purpose. Jack was proud. He wasn't restless. But he wasn't at peace either. The burner phone rang once. Then again. A number he hadn't seen in years. He let it ring twice more before answering. The voice on the other end was distorted, familiar, but filtered. You did damage, Renshaw. But the structure still stands. Jack didn't flinch. Then maybe I didn't hit hard enough. A pause. Then, Garza's not dead. He never was. I figured. He's setting up shop again. South Pacific. Something deeper than Black Halo. Untouchable. Jack's jaw tightened. And you're telling me this why? Because he's scared of what you started. And because I owe you. Jack stood, lightning flashing through the window. You're asking me to come back in? No. I'm telling you that your legacy's not finished. Not yet. Click. The line went dead. Jack stood there, staring at the quiet hum of the phone screen. Legacy wasn't a switch you turned off. It was a fuse. Slow burning. And somewhere in the dark, the last fire was still waiting. He looked down at his journal, open on the table. Then at the travel bag he hadn't touched in almost a year. Outside, thunder cracked like a warning. Inside, the mission reignited. At sunrise, Jack walked deep into the trees. He carried nothing but a small satchel. Inside it, 2 things. The original notebook he'd built his plan from, and a new letter. This time, it was written for Eva. He stopped by the creek that marked the edge of his land. Kneeling down, he opened the notebook one last time. Pages worn. Edges frayed. Names scratched out. Missions closed. He thumbed through to the final page. There, in Eva's handwriting. You didn't run, Dad. You faced it. That's the difference. He smiled. Then opened his own letter. Eva, if you're reading this, it means I left again. But not in silence this time. Not by force. I chose this. Because there's one more shadow left. And someone has to chase it. I'm not afraid anymore. You showed me that. I'm proud of who you've become. More than you'll ever know. If I don't come back, build a world I never could. But if I do, I'll bring the truth with me. Love always, Dad. Jack folded the letter, slipped it into a steel waterproof tube. He buried it under the rocks by the tree they planted last spring. A signal, a legacy, a promise. Then he stood. The forest didn't speak, but the wind moved like a whisper of fate brushing past his jacket. He turned toward the road, the one that led away from the life he built. One last mission. Not for revenge, not even for closure, but for truth, and for her. He didn't say goodbye, because if this was the end, he'd already made peace with who he was. The island was off-grid. No name. Just a dot in the ocean east of New Guinea. The kind of place where secrets didn't echo, they disappeared. Jack moved through the jungle alone, every step calculated. He hadn't held a rifle in over a year, but the weight in his hands felt like it never left. He didn't come for a kill. He came for the final link, Garza. The man who built the system, who designed the betrayals, who trained men like Cole and deployed women like Melissa. Garza didn't hide in bunkers. He held court in glass villas. And when Jack breached the outer perimeter, slicing through infrared and motion sensors, he didn't rush. He walked. Because this wasn't war. This was judgment. Inside the villa, Garza stood alone. Older, thinner, but eyes sharp. You really came, he said, almost smiling, like a ghost with a grudge. Jack raised his weapon but didn't fire. Why? Garza asked. You know why. Garza nodded. Because you were the only one I never broke. Jack stared him down. You built this like it was eternal, Jack said. But all I see is rot held up by shadows. You'll never kill the system. I already did, Jack replied. I just came to look the architect in the eye. Garza smiled faintly. Then do it. Jack didn't move. He turned his back instead, a bigger insult than a bullet. "You're not worth the bullet," Jack said, "but your name will burn." As Jack walked away, Garza stepped back and sat alone in silence. For the first time in decades, the man who manipulated nations realized he wasn't feared anymore. 6 months later, Eva stood on a stage in front of a packed hall in Washington. Behind her, projected on a massive screen, was a black and white photo of Jack. No rank, no badge, just his name. She cleared her throat, her voice steady. "My father was not a perfect man. He wasn't a saint. But when the world gave him every reason to disappear, he chose to rise." A pause. He didn't chase power. He chased truth. And because of him, people now question what they used to follow blindly. She held up a thick journal, Jack's final entries, published after his disappearance. The last page had been left blank. Eva looked at the audience. "He told me stories don't end. They echo. And what you choose to do next is your page." She stepped down, and in the crowd, no one moved. Because something about this ending felt earned. 1 year later, the pine tree on Jack's land had grown taller. The creek flowed like always. And under those rocks, the steel tube with his last letter still rested, waiting. Because whether Jack Renshaw was gone forever or just watching from the shadows, he had already changed everything. And now, for you watching this, I've got one question. If your truth was buried by the people you trusted most, would you risk everything to bring it to light? Tell me in the comments. Where are you watching from? What hit you hardest in Jack's journey? And hey, if the story moved you even 1 inch, like it, share it, subscribe. Not because it's a trend, but because real stories like this deserve to live beyond the screen. Stay sharp, stay real, and remember, truth never stays buried forever.